Good evening and welcome to the Global Women Enrichment Podcast. We're so happy that you've joined us here tonight. And tonight we have our wonderful president, Vinoria. We have Dr. Sandra Brown. And because some of you have been asking when you've watched Laura Bonich. So depending on which language we're talking about, because some of you have asked me, well, why is your last name sounding different? Well, now you know. So today we decided we were going to get together and share with you some of the things that we're doing to nourish our minds, our bodies, our souls during this time, and also get into some additional conversation on leadership, on friendships. So just wanted to ask you ladies, during this time, what have you been doing to nourish your minds?
You want to go first, Vinoria? Go ahead.
Sure, why not? Okay. What I've been doing to nourish my mind. Okay, not my body and soul, just my mind.
We'll get to the body and soul next.
Alrighty. Listen, during the pandemic, I spent a lot of time basically planning and coming up with ideas for Global Women Enrichment, as I'm sure you guys do too. And then we get together and finalize our plans. But outside from that, and outside from working, I'm a soap opera. I'm addictive to the soaps.
Oh.
From the time I was a little girl. And would you believe my mom is the one who got me addicted to soaps? Yeah, from the time, because back then, one television in the house, no remote, it's not a remote control TV. So whatever mom is watching, that's what you have to watch.
Right.
So she was into soap opera, The Young and the Restless. And, but when I got addicted to it, I can't believe I'm saying I'm addicted to soaps. But anyways, when I started watching it, I fell in love with Days of Our Lives, General Hospital, One Life to Live, okay? Oh. And a lot of times people would say, oh, they don't believe in the soaps and all of that. But sometimes if you look at the soaps, whatever is happening in the soaps is happening in everyday people's lives.
Yes.
But my true favorite television show is Lifetime movies, okay? Mm-hmm. It's just... I just watch the movies and I anticipate what's going to happen. And my husband would be like, wait, were you part of the writing team? I'm like, no, and I chipped a nail. I just anticipate. I know, because being a writer, I know how I would want the story to end,
right?
Or how I would want it to transition into another area. So I can easily anticipate and foresee what is going to happen. So it's like, oh my God, I can't watch TV with you anymore. I cannot watch this movie.
You've got the whole formula figured out.
Yeah, and it's so funny because every time I say what's going to happen, that's exactly what happened. And he's like, did you see the movie before? And I'm like, no, honey, I did not see it. But truth be told, every now and again, I would watch a little piece of it. I've seen little clips of it.
Of course.
Before. Confession is good for the soul, honey, if you're listening.
Yeah.
But anyways, Lifetime is a true passion of mine. I love the movies. And most of the stories, they're basically like excerpts from real people's lives, that were documented, crimes that actually happened, and they just transition them into a movie format. So that's my passion, Lifetime, and of course,
soap operas.
Soap operas, but Tyler Perry.
Oh.
There's Sisters out there. There's a sitcom called Sisters. There's another one called If Loving You Is Wrong. And when I saw that, I said to myself, Tyler, I need to share Who Cheats More Than a Politician with you, because If Loving You Is Wrong is about different relationships.
Right.
And he just expanded on each person's relationship. It's a journey of each person's relationship, which is exactly how I wrote my book.
Yes.
So I'm like, hey, Tyler, give me a call. We can work something out.
Absolutely.
It's okay.
So the writer in you basically is nourishing your mind by looking at all of these different stories and saying, what can come next?
Exactly. Yes. You got that. That's right.
So Tyler, if you're watching and listening, make sure you're reaching out to Vinoria.
Yeah, and to
Global Women Enrichment. She can be reached at gwenrichment@gmail.com. So make sure you reach out.
Awesome, Laura.
Sandra, what about you? What do you do to nourish your mind?
We just nourish our mind for her.
Nourishing my mind. I will confess that I make a very strong effort to keep my mind busy. I'm not very good at keeping my mind light. So I tend to bury myself in other people's needs. So as a healthcare provider during COVID, I focused on other people's needs. And sometimes when I would be at my worst emotionally because of the impact of the pandemic, I found peace of mind by virtually helping others. So I remember a very classic situation where a patient of mine who is far away from Kendall, the son would literally have me virtually help him do a wound change.
Wow.
And what a difference that made for me, because I was drowning in the emotions of not being on the front line.
Right.
And just being able to help him nourished my mind, nourished my soul, because I was helping. So as a healthcare provider, sometimes we need to be needed.
Yes.
And if you're not on the front line doing the work that the front line nurses are doing, you can almost feel like you're not doing your part. But because I was able to virtually help this young man help his father, who is my patient, it gave me nourishment. I also believe that the pandemic forced me to slow down, because I'm a little bunny who hops all over the place. I'm constantly
Energizer bunny.
moving. And then I fall into bed and I crash and I sleep and I get up and let's do it again. And I keep myself active because I tend to be a pessimist. A lot of people don't know that. Yeah. But I can get into negative places in my mind. And so nourishment of my mind is keeping busy with other people's needs. I'm very blessed. I have nothing to be sad about or ungrateful about.
Right.
And so my best morning is getting up, going into the study, blasting some good gospel music. Like this morning, I was playing You Turn Graves into Gardens.
Oh my God.
And I had it blasting while I was preparing to come here today. And so things like that. Music does something for my soul.
Yes.
Music does something for my mind. It brings me to a peaceful place.
Yes.
Oh my God. I know my time is gone, but I have to talk about music. You talk about Graves to God, and that is my song. I listened to a lot of churches during the pandemic, and I also listened to a lot of different artists. And I think you had mentioned to me when we were planning 1,000 Women Empowerment Conference, you had told me about Brandon Lake and Tasha Cobbs.
Tasha Cobbs.
What's the name of the song?
This is a move.
This is a move, right. And then so I played that song, and then, you know, when you go to YouTube and you play songs and different songs popped up.
Yes.
And this guy, I call him the guy with the ponytail. Listen, I can listen to that song morning, noon, and night. Every Sunday after I done listen to all the different churches, that is my jam. I'm just in love with that artist, with his music. It's just a blessing. So I'm sorry I get off on
but I think this is perfect, because this is part of what our conversation is what's nourishing us, right? And we started off with what's nourishing our minds, and that's nourishing your minds, but it's also nourishing your soul.
Yes.
You know, when I look at it, one of the songs that has stuck out with me in the last year is by the Casting Crowns, Just Be Held. Right? You know, so much of us have felt the world is falling apart, but truly it's falling into place. And, you know, and so for me, that has been a song, you know, Just Be Held. But then I'll take it to the opposite extreme. There's this artist that many people don't know in the US, although she's amazing, Beth Hart. And she is like this bluesy, soul-driven artist. And sometimes when I just need to jam it out and just clear my mind and nourish, I'll turn to her. And I'll just put her on.
Yes, music.
Yes, it's music. I mean, music, I think when we talk about nourishing, it nourishes the mind. It nourishes the body. It nourishes the soul.
The soul, everything.
And it goes across all cultures, across all generations.
I listen to all type of music. I remember when, as a young girl, growing up, it was like, you can't listen to rock and roll. It's like that's a sin or something if you're a Christian and you're listening to rock and roll. But bring on the rock and roll. As long as it's clean music, I listen to all genre of music.
Well, then a little bit of a disclaimer. There are some bad words sometimes in Beth's stuff, but overall, if you strip it down, you're talking about Lifetime movies and things like that. If you strip down, she writes a lot of her songs, and it really gets to the heart of humanity, and what people go through and the struggles they go through and how they overcome them. So another thing I wanted to talk about and share with our audience today is friendship. And, what has friendship meant to you in your life during this time? I'm sure you both have some friends that have been with you for years and years and years. I have some friends that have been with me from, my childhood that we're still friends today. I mean, I had dinner with one just yesterday, and I won't even say how many years we've known each other.
Well, I'll talk about Maxine. Maxine is my friend from high school. We went to high school together. We went to the same church in Montego Bay, Rosemount Missionary Church, and we used to teach Sunday school together at age 13.
Wow.
And we were talking about that this week. She lives in Orlando. I live here in Miami, but we have always portrayed ourselves as sisters. We have been friends since we were 10 years old. We knew each other before 10, but at age 10, we pretty much solidified our friendship. We went to high school together. We were in the same high school classes together at times. And then we kind of went our separate ways, but we remained the best of friends. So she was my chief bridesmaid at my wedding, and I was her matron of honor at her wedding. And our kids are everybody's kids. She has 2 boys. I have 2 boys. There was a time when if anything happened to her, I'd be like, oh no, it's going to happen to me now. And we would share similar stories. There actually was a season when she was loving the guys I was loving. That's not
That made
fun.
for interesting friendship,
That
I'm sure.
wasn't good. But eventually I found my own man and she found hers. So, she's a dear friend, and I just want to shout out to my dear sweet Maxine in Orlando. I won't give more information than that, but we've been friends for more than 40 years. And we often talk about writing a book on friendship, what it takes to be friends, because we have to allow each other their space. There's a season when you just be quiet and not be up in each other's business and give each other room to live your own personal story. I had to get to the place in our friendship where I had to enjoy my life regardless of what she was going through and be grateful for what God has given to me, because I didn't know how to enjoy my life. I take literally the scripture that says, when you cry, I cry.
Yes.
When you rejoice, I rejoice. And I had to find a way to enjoy my personal life and my personal being with my family, regardless of what was happening to my bestest friend from high school and beyond, and then embrace the friendship that my husband and I have and enjoy that. So in many ways, I would say that Lance is my best friend.
Yes.
But outside of my family, there's nobody like Maxine. She's the friend to have. She's a carer. She's a giver. She's an encourager. From high school days, she encouraged me to go beyond, do more than you think you can do. And that has always been a blessing. She has always been an encouragement for our marriage. She was our chief bridesmaid, and every year on our anniversary, she would call us and say, how are you guys really doing? And I want to treasure her for that.
That's wonderful. I think you say something that's really important is true friendship is friends that lift you up and encourage you, not friends that pull you down and want to have you wallow in whatever they're wallowing in, or bring you into things that you really shouldn't be a part of. A true friend would never do that. Venoria, what about you?
Oh, yeah. I take that word, a lot of people use it very loosely. I take it very seriously. Because oftentimes people mistake friends and acquaintances. There is a big difference. I alluded to that. I had a section about that in one of my books that I wrote called The Best Me, and how it relates to friendship and all that. I remember when I first came to this country, and you would see what you would call a so-called group of friends, and they say that they are friends, but then from the time one of them would leave, then the whole group will start talking and not saying anything nice. And I said to myself, no, why would I want to be in that type of friendship situation? Because that is not true friendship. I have a true friend. I'm a little older than her. She probably would say a lot older, probably 5 years or more. But we have always been friends. She's from back in the islands, but now she is somewhere in the United States. Her name is Carmen. Carmen, you know who you are if in the event you're listening to this. I'm not only friends with her, but of course, when you have a good friend, you're a friend of the entire family. She lost her dad, I don't know, quite a few years ago, and then she recently lost her mom just last month. Carmen and I don't speak like every day. Sometimes we may not even speak for 6 months, for 9 months, maybe even a year. But whenever we speak, it's like I do not speak to Carmen every day, but it's like every day she is in my thoughts, right, because she's in here. She's in my heart, you know. So we have that special friendship. So it doesn't matter how long we have not spoken to each other. That doesn't mean that we are no longer friends. A lot of so-called friends, if you don't call them every single day, oh, so what's going on? Why didn't you call me? Okay? They expect you, they demand that you call them. Carmen and I do not demand that we call each other because we know whether or not we talk today or we talk next year. The friendship is there. Exactly. Because when you have formed a bond with someone, it's unbreakable. Yes. You know, so that is what true friendship is, knowing that that person is out there, and when you need that person is there for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm very blessed because I have friends from, you know, elementary and middle school, friends from high school, and then friends from college and then beyond, and have been able to form some really tight bonds that, to your point, we may go a year without talking to each other, but the moment we pick up the phone or we say, let's meet, it's like we just talked yesterday. Yep. And those bonds are unbreakable. And I would say the names, but then I'd probably, you know, from each era have somebody say, well, why didn't you say my name? So you all know who you are because we do have these unbreakable bonds. So there's one other topic that we wanted to talk about. And just, you know, since we're talking about nourishing mind, body, and soul, is what else can we talk about as women? So, you know, when we think about other topics, we've talked about, you know, women empowerment. We've talked about all sorts of things from, you know, women who have children with special needs. And we've talked about so many different things. What else could we talk about if we came together as women? What topics come to mind if you were putting together this leadership course, let's say? Sandra, what would you want to include in that?
Well, first I want to acknowledge that leadership is influence. And I think women sometimes think that leadership is for some highfalutin, educated person. But as long as you're influencing someone, you're a leader. Therefore, if you're a big sister or a big brother, you're a leader. You're influencing little eyes that are watching you. And everyone who influences someone, if you have a circle of influence, you're a leader. And I think that's the first thing we need to make clear, that leadership is not for the president of the United States or the president of some company or the pastor of a church or the teacher at school. Every single person has the potential of leadership. That's the first thing. Yes. And then as a woman, speaking to you women, when I think of leadership, the first thing because I'm a healthcare provider and I'm also grounded in my spiritual relationship, leadership would mean a course or a session that talks about physical health, mental health, and spiritual health. And because I'm very bad at it, probably social health. So I think my weakness is probably physical care. I am weak on getting onto the treadmill or going out to walk in the sunshine, even though I advocate for it. And I'm also weak with sleep. Something as simple as sleep, I neglect because there's always something to do, right? I don't have time to close my eyes because there's something to do. So I will get up from my work desk at home to go to bed, and before I get to the bed, I clean the kitchen, I put a load in the washing machine, I fold a load of clothes, and then I have to brush my teeth, and finally I collapse into bed with great, it's time for bed. So sleep for me is a precious condiment in my life. I need to find time to sleep. So leadership would be, how are we at taking care of ourselves mentally, physically, socially, and spiritually?
Absolutely. That's spot on. I mean, you're talking
That's
about nourishing our mind, our body, our soul, and our relationships. Honoria, what do you have to add?
Yeah, I quite agree with everything Dr. Brown said about leadership. One thing I would like to add to that, because a lot of times, especially in organizations, people think being a leader is being a dictator. That's being a dictator. That's not being a leader. Leadership is recognizing your potential, recognizing the goals that you have for any organization, and finding the right people to put into those roles, to take on the leadership of those roles, and together you guys work as one. Talking about that, we talked about Q&A, but we did not get a chance to talk about some of the comments that our viewers have said. And one of the things that they have said is that kudos to us, and I'm going to be humble. They said kudos to us because forming an organization is not easy, but they commended being able to find the right people, okay, that would click with each other and be able to project that camaraderie out there to the masses. And that is what it's a Global Women does every week for them.
Absolutely.
So that's an awesome thing, okay? One of the things for me, though, is confidence. I think building confidence and empowering people to be confident in everything that they do, because a lot of times people have goals and somebody would come along and say, oh, you can't do that. Well, do not listen to anyone who tell you that you can't do that. Do not project your, what's the word I'm looking for? Insecurity
on me.
on someone
Right,
else.
exactly.
You understand? Be encouraged. And you're going to hear me say this a lot: empower, encourage, and enrich.
Absolutely.
I think one of the ways we should remember leadership is servanthood.
Yes.
I think Christ is our example, and he led by washing the disciples' feet. Now, how can God be washing disciples' feet, So I think the best leader leads by example, serves the ones they lead, and it's not about me as a leader, it's about the team I work with. How can I make sure everybody around me reaches their full potential? It's not about me reaching my full potential and being the dictator of the group, but rather, how can you be your best? How can I make sure as your leader that you reach your maximum potential and that you are shining? Because when you shine, I shine.
Thank you.
And we need to take the focus off me, the leader,
Exactly.
and make everybody leaders.
That's right.
Yes. And if we had a world full of leaders, I mean, what a great place, right? So thank you so much for joining us. Remember, it's so important to nourish your mind, your body, your soul, and your relationships. It's also very important to understand that we are all leaders, and we lead in every single aspect of our lives, and we have the ability not only to nourish ourselves, but to nourish others in every single one of those facets of life. We can't wait to join you again next month in May. We have great things in store for you. We have wonderful topics. We will be touching on Haitian Heritage Month. We will be talking about Mother's Day. We have a surprise birthday celebration coming up and so much more. Make sure to join us. Thanks. Good evening.